Hello and welcome to History's a Blast. We're coming to you today from the Raccoon Mountain Caverns and Campground near Chattanooga, Tennessee. Today we're going to concentrate on the American Civil War and the Battle of Chickamauga that was fought here in September of 1863 and the siege of Chattanooga that lasted into late November of that year. So if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and come back and see us again. Any look at a map of the interstate highway system, not appearing in this video, shows how important Chattanooga is as a transportation hub. Well, it was the same in 1863, a year that by September had been a disaster for the rebels, aka Confederates. In the West, after a long and bloody campaign, Vicksburg, the last rebel bastion on the Mississippi River, fell on Independence Day. And back east that night saw the beginning of Robert E. Lee's retreat from Gettysburg after 3 days of the bloodiest fighting ever seen in North America. Meanwhile, here in the Confederate heartland, a Union army commanded by General Rosecrans had maneuvered the rebel army of Tennessee completely out of that state, virtually without a fight, and was about to occupy Chattanooga and sever the only direct rail link between Richmond and the West. The Battle of Chickamauga was fought to decide the outcome. By the way, if you've been watching the dash cam, you might have noticed that we took a rather convoluted route to the Chickamauga National Battlefield Park Visitor Center. That's because Garmin told me to turn too early. So much for technology. Chickamauga Battlefield Visitor Center. Quite a collection of various types of artillery pieces. There's a James rifle, a bronze rifle. Confederates converted it from a 6-pounder smoothbore. Wow. And they've got overviews of the Chattanooga area with all the Civil War sites. There's Chickamauga Battlefield, the lower right, Lookout Mountain, left of center. Special regulations, there's the battlefield map. We won't spend a lot of time in the visitor center. I'll just show you around the entry gallery, which is monumental as far as American National Battlefield parks go. Portraits of principal generals on both sides of the Battle of Chickamauga and the later siege of Chattanooga are displayed here, and there's a large map of the park to orient visitors. Now, to describe the battle in a nutshell, neither commanding general, Confederate Braxton Bragg or Federal William Rosecrans, knew exactly where his enemy's army was at any given time, or what it was up to. What Bragg envisioned as a coordinated sunrise attack by the entire right wing of his army on his opponent's exposed left flank instead unraveled as a series of futile, disjointed late-morning charges into withering musket fire from hastily fortified Union positions. One such charge was made by a brigade of Kentuckians, known to history as the Orphan Brigade because their state stayed in the Union. Theirs is a poignant story. I'll put a link to a very good web article about the Orphan Brigade in the description below. There's also a special ranger program about the Orphan Brigade at this park. Their commander, Benjamin Hardin Helm, was mortally wounded in the action, and the spot where he fell is up ahead somewhere, marked by a large pyramid of cannonballs. The brigade came out of the woods on our left, crossed this road, and immediately struck the extreme left of the Federal line. The left half of the brigade, where Helm had stationed himself, ran into devastating musket fire at point-blank range and was shot to pieces. But the right half faced little if any resistance, and if supporting troops had been at hand, which they were not, the Kentuckians would have rolled up the Union left flank. In my younger days, I was a Civil War reenactor, and for a while I was part of a group that portrayed a company in this brigade, so this spot has a special place in my heart. At about 10 a.m., they came storming out of those trees over there in the first of 3 tries to dislodge the Federal troops behind the breastworks along this line. When, finally, they had to fall back, a third of their comrades, Helm among them, had been shot down. There's the Helm pyramid back here in the woods. Well, this is Claiborne's division. Different various pieces, different sizes and weights, mixed and matched in these Confederate batteries. The Federal left under the direct command of General George Thomas, more on him later, was hard-pressed throughout the morning. But reinforcements from the relatively quiet center and right allowed Thomas to hold until Rosecrans' own confusion about the situation resulted in disaster. We're driving to the scene of that disaster now. Bragg had put his left wing under General James Longstreet, the future Southerners' scapegoat for Pickett's charge at Gettysburg, who had arrived only the day before from Virginia with 2 divisions of his own Gettysburg veterans to reinforce Bragg's outnumbered army. Throughout the morning of September 20th, and unseen behind those woods, Longstreet was methodically assembling 8 brigades, totaling 10,000 men, into a phalanx a quarter-mile wide and about as deep. Bragg had ordered him to attack at 9:30. 2 hours later, with everything finally set, Longstreet sent this mass forward. Like Pickett's charge at Gettysburg, this assembly of 10,000 infantrymen made quite a spectacle as it crossed the Brotherton field. Unlike Pickett's charge, when it emerged from those woods over there, it struck, well, nothing. There's a road along that fence line to the other side of the Brotherton woods. Let's continue this on the other side. Now, at about the same time that Longstreet's phalanx moved out, a misunderstanding between Rosecrans and one of his division commanders left an undefended gap in the Federal line several hundred yards wide, right where Longstreet's assault was about to hit. When Longstreet's juggernaut stormed into these fields, the Federal divisions to the south, to the left on this map, literally broke and ran in a headlong retreat that didn't stop until they reached Chattanooga. Every general officer on the field, including Rosecrans himself, whose headquarters was directly ahead in that clearing on the high ground, was swept up in the rout. Only the timely counterattack by Wilder's Independent Brigade of Mounted Infantry from the Midwest, armed with repeating rifles, kept disaster from becoming a catastrophe. We'll go to that spot next. John T. Wilder's brigade was unique for the time. Standard infantry regiments traveled and fought on foot and carried single-shot muzzle-loading rifles. Wilder's carried 7-shot repeating rifles, traveled on horseback, and only dismounted to fight. On this day, they were posted behind the right flank of Rosecrans' army, exactly at the right place at the right time to save the day. And that's essentially what they did, stopping the Confederate pursuit of the fleeing Federals and bloodying up other rebel units as Longstreet tried to turn his phalanx toward the north. Right behind the Wilder Monument, there's an active railroad line. Train break. Having disposed of Rosecrans and half of his army, Longstreet now turned to George Thomas's holdouts and the remnants of Federal units that had not fled the Confederate onslaught, and who Thomas was forming for a last-ditch defense around a place known to history as Snodgrass Hill, our last stop on the battlefield. Now, we just did a drive-through of the Snodgrass Hill positions because it was getting late and we wanted to get to the Lookout Mountain Battlefield Park before the Visitor Center closed. Suffice to say that this was one of those places where a household name is born. Just as Jackson stood like a stone wall at Manassas, Thomas stood here like a rock, and so he was known ever after as the Rock of Chickamauga. At the base of this hill, Longstreet's brigades spent their last strength trying and failing to dislodge the Federals from these positions. Darkness brought an end to the fighting. Thomas withdrew the remnants of the Army of the Cumberland unmolested into Chattanooga. In the end, what could have been a strategic defeat for the Union with the Confederates reclaiming Tennessee ended in a tactical Confederate victory, but a temporary stalemate. Before we left the Chickamauga battlefield for Lookout Mountain, we headed back south beyond the far end of the national park to a place of importance on the day before the big fight, Lee and Gordon's Mill. I love old industrial buildings, and Civil War era photographs of this mill have always intrigued me. I didn't know what we'd find, maybe at least a historical marker. I certainly didn't expect to see the building in anything like its 1863 form.
I doubt that the mill is still standing. Although I could be wrong. Oh, look at here, they got Buell's Brigade, Georgia again. So this is all from the day before. Who's here? Field Headquarters, 21st Army Corps, General Thomas Crittenden. Oh, he's got a marker in their front yard. Oh, look! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Boy, was I wrong. Holy.
This was well worth the side trip. A near replica of the Civil War era structure and a functional timber crib mill dam. Okay, on to Lookout Mountain, which we reached after a long, winding drive through beautiful neighborhoods to the top of the mountain. Up on Lookout Mountain, about to go into Point Park. Here's a commercial enterprise next door to the Park Service office down there. I love this thing. They've got this little announcement, a little placard up here. Everything you need to know about being an artilleryman. If you wanted to learn how to do Civil War artillery, just come up here and study this billboard. And then over here we have all the principal players in the Chickamauga-Chattanooga saga. There's William Tecumseh Sherman over Grant's right shoulder, and over his left shoulder is Braxton Bragg, the commander of the Army of Tennessee in the debacle. And there's Rosecrans, who commanded the Army of the Cumberland in the debacle of Chickamauga for the Union. I'll walk down here to the Park Service Visitor Center. There we go. Wow. This is something. Oh, this is the battle above the clouds, yeah. There's Hooker on his horse. here on Lookout Point, on the tip of Lookout Mountain. There's a long list of the casualties. The Union casualties, the aggregate was, this is the Battle of Chattanooga on November 23rd to November 27th. The Confederates were outnumbered more than 2 to 1, and they suffered almost 1,000 more total casualties. Most of those missing, however. Most of those were missing, which is to say captured. When Missionary Ridge was abandoned precipitously. Now, in the context of the battles for Chattanooga, this place is more important in legend than in fact. Then, as now, its chief importance was what you could see rather than what you could shoot from up here. But when Federal troops finally chased the rebels away from here in November of 1863, the effect on the morale of both armies was probably a crucial factor in what happened down there on Missionary Ridge shortly thereafter. We didn't have enough time to explore the battle sites at Tunnel Hill or on Missionary Ridge this trip, so I guess we'll just have to come back another time. In the meantime, we're heading back north into Kentucky, and we hope you'll come along. Thanks for watching. Please click the thumbs up icon to like the video and share with your friends via email or social media. I'd love to have you subscribe, and if you do, please click the little bell icon so you'll get notifications whenever I post a new video. Goodbye.